Did Jesus exist?
Probably.
Come on.
Possibly. Probably.
Come on.
Probably.
I think I would say it is a lot more likely. I don't think we can be certain, which means that I leave open the possibility, maybe even the plausibility, that there was no historical Jesus. But
Are you agnostic about whether Jesus existed?
Yes, I am.
I wonder, was there a historical Jesus, or was it just a story?
I would say there was a historical guy. What do you think?
I think it was just a story.
Wow. So you are a mythicist.
Yeah.
That means the historical Jesus, as Jesus actually existed in history, is inaccessible to you. You will not find him. You cannot find him. You will never find him.
We can prove that the gospel narrative is fictional and they do not describe the life of a real person. And at that point, I would say that the gospel Jesus did not exist, right?
If you got 100 biblical scholars up on this stage, you could probably get them to agree on 3 things about the historical Jesus. That's it. That is all that we can say with any kind of confidence, and it's not even that much confidence.
I mean, the earliest evidence you have for Christianity, for these origins, are the letters of a man who never met the historical Jesus. Then you don't have any stories about the historical Jesus. And
so the first thing, the problem of the evidence, which is basically that there is none. Right? And you look at the lifespan of Jesus from 3 BC to 30 AD, and you don't see anything. There's nothing.
The Jesus described in the Gospels is a construct. And naive people try to then see that as a description of a real person. It evolved not necessarily from a flesh and blood person, but more likely it evolved from other religions and other belief systems.
This is a period of flux when older traditions are being recast into a new Christian context. And some scholars have noted that the old tradition of Hermes was a perfect figure.
To number 2, which is this image that comes from the catacomb of Calixtus and dates to around 250 CE. Here, Jesus is once again depicted as being the Good Shepherd, as it was commonly used in depictions of the god Hermes, or Mercury.
Well, it kind of bothers me when people write off mythicism completely and say, scholars don't agree on it. Okay, this is what bothers me about that, is that there are, when it comes to the sources in the first century, there's almost nothing.
When we look at the Gospels, it looks very similar to other gods we have. For example, we have biographies written of Romulus. We have the kind of like the Gospels of Hercules. These are non-existent people, and they have whole elaborate biographies written about them. We have a similar thing in the Old Testament, where Moses, it's pretty widely agreed in mainstream scholarship today that Moses is a mythical person. He did not originally exist.
The information we're presented with, which is layered of layers of legendary material, and discover who might the historical Jesus be. It really is all speculative, and the methodology of who Jesus was is very, very difficult, and it's a very soft science.
Haseman developed a series of methods or approaches by which he thought he could get back to the historical Jesus. And these are sometimes called the criteria of authenticity. There are 2 major ones, both of which are problematic.
The idea that the traditional criteria for authenticity are not completely dead, but they're more or less, they're of minimal use for reconstructing Jesus.
What is the state of Jesus scholarship today? Richard, do you want to start that?
It's in a bit of disarray. Currently, there is no consensus on exactly what the actual story of the origins of Christianity are. We have essentially 10 different versions of the historical Jesus promoted in the field. Every single historian cherry picks the evidence that he wants to try and argue for his particular version of it. No, but the thing is the methods they're using aren't actually logically valid. So there actually is no support for the methodology by anyone who's actually done a dedicated study of the methodology being used in it.
If we interrogate the text long enough, maybe the historical man will step forward and present himself and introduce himself. It's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. You're never going to know what that guy was like. But the New Testament Gospels are not footage of any flesh and blood person that it actually existed in history.
My conclusion, these are not reliable historical accounts. There are too many discrepancies.
We have absolutely no direct archaeological evidence for the life or death of Jesus of Nazareth. And we have direct archaeological evidence for all kinds of other facts about the ancient world, including facts about first century CE Judea.
And the first major assault on the history of Jesus was by this German named Remarus, who was so scared he couldn't even say it with his own name when he wrote. So he wrote anonymously. And since Remarus in 1768, not one single shred of evidence has come back from Jesus' time.
History to this character of Jesus, it's entirely a literary creation.
I'm Candida Moss. I'm the Edward Cadbury Professor of Theology at the University of Birmingham, and I'm a Bible scholar. And a friend of mine asked me if I would make a video explaining the historical evidence for Jesus. And it's not great. So if you think about the pilgrimage sites that tradition says are places that Jesus lived or was born or died or did something important in. The problem is that in the best case scenario, those traditions go back to the 4th century CE when the Emperor Constantine and his mother Helena were looking for these sites.
Years, Christians had written and marked their own historical homework for the best part of 1700 years. So,
do Christians have the right idea about Jesus?
No.
I think they've been making stuff up since day one, and that's one reason why I want to be here and set the record straight.